Hi, good morning or good afternoon or good evening, everyone, depending on where in the world you are. Thank you so much for joining the webinar today. My name is Gabby Hart. I'm a Publishing Development Manager here at Emerald Publishing, and welcome to this webinar on AI trends in higher education. It'd be really great if you could write in the chat or questions box how you heard about this webinar today. It'd be really useful for us to understand how we've managed to reach you. Would be really great. So just a very quick introduction from me, and then I'll hand over to the moderator and the panelists. So my name is Gabby Hart. As I said, I'm a Publishing Development Manager at Emerald Publishing. And firstly, I'd like to thank HETL for their collaboration for this session. So HETL are the International Higher Education Teaching and Learning Association, and Emerald have worked with HETL for many years now and run a number of sessions with them. So thank you again, and I will introduce Professor Abhilasha Singh in just a second from HETL, who will be moderating the session today. And I'd also like to thank the panelists as well for their time today. And it's great to have really varied experience on AI today. So just a very quick word on Emerald Publishing then. So I work under Emerald's Quality Education for All goal. So I just want to share my details here very quickly. My email is on the screen there. So as part of my role, I manage two open access journals called Artificial Intelligence and Education and Quality Education for All. Both of these support the SDG goals on quality education. So Christine O'Day, who is a editor for the Artificial Intelligence and Education Journal, is on the call today. Obviously, she's joining kind of in a slightly different capacity, but these two journals are both open for submissions, reviewers, if you're interested in publishing special issues, or if you're interested in any other areas within kind of open access education publishing, please do reach out to me. I've also linked on there a list to our other education journals. So we publish 27 other journals which are also open to submissions, as well as the comprehensive books portfolio on education that we publish as well. This recording will be sent out to all of the attendees, so you will get this information emailed to you as well. But after this, I'll put these links in the chat as well, so you should be able to access those. And then just a very quick note on housekeeping then. So all the attendees are muted. So if you've got any questions, please put them in the questions box that should be on the right-hand side of your screen. We will have time for a brief Q&A at the end, so please do write in any questions you've got, and if they're for a specific panelist, please do say who it is you're asking. And then after the session, as I said, this will be emailed out to everyone. In that email, you'll be given the option to opt into our marketing communications. So if you do want to sign up and keep up to date with Emerald Publishing, our education output, please do opt in via that email. Okay, brilliant. So now I will pass over to the moderator of today's session. So moderating the session from HETL today is Professor Abhilasha Singh. Professor Singh is a staunch supporter of quality education with a strong commitment to academic excellence and unwavering dedication to the success of students. Professor Singh is currently a professor of HR and organisational behaviour before serving as President of Academic Affairs for 5 years, as Provost or Vice President for Academic Affairs for 3 years at the American University in the Emirates in Dubai. Throughout her distinguished career, she was engaged in a series of academic administrative positions at various institutions and has been engaged in providing strategic directives at senior leadership roles and ensuring its implementation with determination. She has also been engaged in ensuring educational quality and compliance for national and international accreditations and is a certified reviewer of the Commission for Academic Accreditation, Ministry of Education, UAE. She is a passionate educational leader engaged in not only leading the strategic plan, but also outcome-based student learning and continuous improvement plans throughout a robust and scalable infrastructure, and with a commitment to bring educational excellence in the region. Professor Singh is a recipient of many awards and accolades. To name some, the 2025 Award for Outstanding Contribution to Education, the highest award for non-resident Indians, the Hind Ratan Award 2024, the Most Influential Woman Award by Filmfare Middle East 2023, Women in Leadership Congress Award 2023, and the Most Ahmad Global Indians 2021. He is passionate about research that has resulted in many research grants, published articles, and journals of high repute, and with frequent invitations for numerous speaking engagements to national and international audiences. He has a PhD in Applied Psychology from Banaras Hindu University, India, and a graduate qualification from IIMC and MIT US. He is a certified practitioner of Balanced Scorecard, EQ, SHRM, CIPD, and MBTI. He also serves as senior editor of a leading Q1 Scopus Index journal and as an executive board member at the International Higher Education Teaching and Learning Association, or HETL. So again, thank you so much for your time today, Professor Singh, and everyone, all the panelists and everyone for attending the session. So I will pass over now to Professor Singh. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gabi, for that introduction. Suddenly, I started feeling very embarrassed because it was going on and on. I thought attendees would like to hear something else. So thank you for that introduction, and a warm welcome to all our attendees joining us today. I can see around 475 at this point of time. So good numbers. Thank you for joining us today for this very important discussion on AI trends in higher education. I would like to extend my deep appreciation to both HETL, the International Higher Education Teaching and Learning Association, and Emerald for their invaluable contribution, not only in advancing research, but also in fostering critical discussions that shape the global academic community. As an executive committee member of HETL, we call it HETL, Higher Education Teaching and Learning Association, I have seen how this platform brings together educators, researchers, and leaders to explore the pressing challenges and opportunities in higher education. And I'm sorry, I have to mention Patrick here, the founder of HETL. He deserves a special recognition for his vision in establishing a global forum that continuously drives innovation and scholarly engagement. And we all know Emerald, through its commitment to impactful research and academic dialogue, it has been instrumental in ensuring that such discussions which we are having today, it translates into meaningful scholarship. So as a senior editor of Journal of Applied Research in Higher Education, JARE, which is Q1 indexed in Scopus, published by Emerald, I encourage all of you to not only engage in today's discussion, but also contribute to the growing body of research on artificial intelligence in education. And JARE welcomes, such pioneering studies that can critically examine the evolving role of artificial intelligence in education. So this event is more than just a conversation. It's an opportunity to collaborate, opportunity to exchange insights, and let us pledge to collectively shape the future of higher education. AI, we all have been talking about this. So AI is rapidly transforming our sector, higher education sector. And it is through such partnership like this between HETL and Emerald, and with all of you, that we can ensure its implementation is both ethical and effective. So I look forward to a dynamic discussion today. And the theme, as you know, of today's panel is more than just a discussion of AI's impact on higher education. It's about understanding the transformative potential and ethical challenges AI brings to our institution, to our faculty, to our students. And the question is, how do we harness AI's power while also ensuring quality, equity, and more important, academic integrity? So we have gathered an exceptional panel of experts who will share their insights on how AI is disrupting and shaping the future of education. So without further ado, let me introduce our esteemed panelist. We have Dr. John Moravec, an education futurist, consultant, and a speaker with a passion for reimagining learning in a fast-changing world. He's the founder of Education Futures, who has spent over 2 decades challenging traditional education models and pushing for innovative, human-centered approach that harness emerging technologies. I'm sure many of you know about him. He coined the term nomads to describe the boundary-breaking learners who thrive in an interconnected world. Recognized globally, John collaborates with institutions like World Bank to tackle great challenges, important challenges in education. And I know that it is very helpful for the policymakers because his discussion and his support basically helps us to design future-ready learning environments that can spark curiosity, creativity, and adaptability. We are also joined by Professor Mariann Hardey, a powerhouse in digital accessibility and equity, working to ensure technology doesn't leave anyone behind. So she's a blend of futurist thinking and real world pragmatism. She bridges the gap between AI, digital transformation, and business education at Durham University. So her work isn't just about complex algorithms, it's about making technology inclusive, useful. So think of her as a tech therapist, advocating for a world where no one gets locked out of the digital revolution, even those who still think the cloud is just about the weather. And then we have Dr. Z Odia. I will prefer to call her Christine. She's an expert in AI literacy and digital transformation at King's Business School, and she's also an academic chair of Circle U's Knowledge Hub of AI. Her research dives deep into AI in education, particularly generative AI. We have been talking about it. And she has been featured in top-tier journals like Studies in Higher Education and the British Journal of the Education Technology. She is also a regular contributor to Times Higher Education. I love reading about her. And we have Dr. Ahmad today. Dr. Ahmad Hassan Afridi is an AI researcher specializing in human-centered computing. And his work explores AI-driven recommender system in education. With more than 2 decades of academic experience, he is deeply involved in AI, user experience research, and smart transportation system. As program director for BS in Artificial Intelligence, he plays a key role in curriculum development and also mentoring future AI innovators at the Institute of Management Sciences in Peshawar. So let's start with John Yu. What are the most significant AI trends currently shaping higher education? I mean, I'm curious to know what's the most unexpected way AI might transform higher education. Is there something we are not even talking about yet? John, over to you.
Okay. Well, first of all, thanks for hosting this this conversation here. I think that since HETL is such a partner in this, I think we just need to really focus on what this means for students first and foremost. So let's think of 3 things. The first one I would say is personalized learning assessments, like feedback, right? Because now we can have adaptive systems that create customized content and pacing. And this is especially in areas that don't quite have a high amount of resources. Low resource environments where experts are not always present to provide feedback or even instruction. From university management, we've got predictive analysis for student retention, right? So we can identify at-risk students early. We can enable proactive interventions, early detection mechanisms, and this really helps to improve retention rates. And then I think we also have, what we view as enhanced research capabilities, and we're going to see where this really goes. That tools help us really work with data a whole lot better, find patterns, models, and simulations. And so this is supposed to help us improve the quality of research. But for me, the thing that was really surprising is the speed at which that AI is transforming and even replacing entire fields within higher education. We've all expected there to be an impact on things, but the scale has been quite impressive. Let's use, I think, STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, because I think these guys have been really in the forefront, the most exposed. It was just a couple of years ago where everybody was saying, you have to learn how to code, you have to learn how to code, you have to learn how to code. Now that's completely changed because we've got like the CEO of NVIDIA saying that we don't need to code, the machines will do it for us. And that's a profound change. And I think it presents a huge challenge to universities who invest so much in this, but are also struggling to keep up with the world that's around them. So, you know, things that we're not yet talking about, I think we've got AI-led institutional governance, right? How can AI really help us lead universities? And I think this is a very dangerous area, but we can use AI to help optimize budgets, we can forecast enrollments better, help guide policy decisions, or maybe even manage resource allocation, right? This is all politics. And so we're thinking about handing political decisions over to AI. It's kind of an interesting thing, right? That's a potential power shift in dynamics university and transparency in how we do things. Another thing that we aren't quite talking about yet is like AI is a new thing that's just really distracted us from the other new things that were distracting us. And I think that we have to start thinking about how we blend in with those other technologies. Let's like think about blockchain, for example, right? Like blending AI with blockchain can help us redesign how we handle credentialing and lifelong learning, right? We could create micro credentials or profiles that update automatically as students gain new experiences, skills, micro skills, etc. And one way to kind of think about this, you know, with automated institutional governance, integration of these other technologies, are we looking at the end of the modern university itself, right? It's dissolving traditional learning boundaries, administrative boundaries. There's a potential to decentralize things, so that's kind of interesting. But you know, they've got the dark side of this, of course, is that we're all becoming much more beholden to algorithmic bias and operate within these algorithms, and we've got challenges to privacy, student privacy, faculty data privacy, etc. And then I think that we also have the elephant in the room that we often think of artificial intelligence as being something that's, you know, helps democratize education, but it's not democratic. And so we're increasingly relying on commercial platforms that really create the risk of us ceding control of our curricula, our practices, faculty management, etc., over to corporate interests. I think that was just a word salad. I mean, trying, it's 7 a.m. over here.
That's a fascinating perspective. I mean, it's clear that AI is evolving in ways that we may not have even anticipated. So if I have to conclude, I mean, I can just say probably that it requires institutions to be more adaptable. I mean, we are calling for probably resilient institutions. So John, I have a question, but I will come back to you in a while. Mariann, what John said was really fascinating. So what do you think? Will AI make degrees and traditional learning pathways obsolete? If skills and knowledge can be verified in real time, do we still need traditional higher education as we know now? What do you think, Mariann?
Good question. I guess to bounce off John's perspective here, which was brilliant, is that AI is already doing that, right? So I teach across undergraduate and postgraduate and online and in-person pathways, and every single level, everything's getting shaken up. So obsolete, you know, perhaps not entirely, but definitely fundamentally changed, all right? And we cling to the notion of kind of traditional degree pathways as sort of a sign and a signal of competence, but AI has, you know, rapidly demonstrated to us that there are, you know, skills and knowledge and transferability and innovations there that can be verified dynamically. So you could have that real-time coaching, that real-time feedback loop, with the caveat, as John has already pointed out, that this is far from a democratization of education. There are inherent biases here that are amplified even further by this kind of LMM technology. the question I get asked a lot by colleagues is that if AI can assess a student's ability to solve, problems in real time based on their practical application, why do we need years of standardized sort of exams and lectures? And then obviously with a glint of fear in their eyes as they realize that their jobs may be obsolete. So I think we're not just talking here about changing how we learn, but also what we value as education and kind of what goes into the melting pot there. And then there are sort of different things that intersect across that in terms of sort of academics' role within that. So before, there was value in terms of knowledge exchange between staff and students and being guided by lecturers. And now for those who are adopting AI, students and faculty levels, there seems to be much more of a sort of coaching relationship in terms of sort of how that technology adds value to the learning experience. So it doesn't equate to knowledge, it doesn't equate to learning. It's not that much of a shortcut in terms of having, a chip in your brain, but it is allowing forms of accessibility to open up. I'm dyslexic myself. I have students who have accessibility needs, all kinds of different learning needs, and these are tools that help those kinds of students with those kinds of learning pathways. So sure, it's shaking things up, yes. Will we see the end of degree programs? Probably not.
So, this raises a very important question about credentialing and the value of formal education in an AI-driven world, I can say. So let me ask Christine now. Christine, if we were designing a new university today from scratch in an AI-driven world, what would it look like? Would it even resemble what we call a university?
Yeah, thank you very much. So I quite like the answers provided by the two panelists here already. I think I just build on what they have explained already. Personally, I think, and I sincerely hope, I don't think we will be replaced by AI just yet. From my point of view, really, but I think we do need to make changes in the higher education sector. Probably potentially our role going to change, become just an educator, more to facilitate, probably using the support of AI to enable and support students to do the fundamental learning themselves. And we are again providing a more of a scaffolding support to begin with, set out the tasks, getting students to do the learning, the basic learning themselves, because AI, at least we're not really achieving the strong AI stage yet, and so they can't really, AI doesn't really do the thinking, doesn't have a creativity. I think for us, maybe the teaching, the focus support to facilitate them really is to implement what they have learned as a fundamental knowledge, and then to convert that into solutions to help them develop this kind of critical thinking, higher level critical thinking, problem solving skills, and reacting to real life scenarios. It's about building up a much closer or stronger connection to industry, to see what we can actually train our students to be more adaptive, to react to different situations. By now, AI is the main disruptive technology, but there are other disruptive technologies, and I think gradually there will be more. So for us, we can't teach them exactly how to use every single tool, but it is about showing them what they could be doing, how to react to different changes, and also promptly in the real life situation. And frankly speaking, I think AI, within the way it's being developed, can provide quite good services, acting maybe like a personal tutor insert to certain level, and then to actually provide a personalized learning environment if possible in future as well. So I think the higher education in general, we still will be there to provide support and teaching and leading, guiding, training all together, but the way we deliver teaching, I think it will need to be changed, but not in short period of time, but I think that might be the future would look like. Thank you.
More from faculty, we will become like a facilitators. I really enjoyed listening to you. The idea of reimagining the university model is intriguing, basically. And sometimes to us, it pushes, to think beyond the legacy systems which are there. Let me ask Ahmad, Ahmad, what if AI becomes the primary producer of academic research? Would that make humanist scholars like us irrelevant, or would it open up new intellectual frontiers? So what do you think, how is AI transforming academic research?
Thank you very much for the invitation, and it is very enlightening to listen to esteemed panelists. Artificial intelligence is obviously the next frontier that higher education institutions should be looking forward. Human scholars would remain crucial for interpreting, validating, and contextualizing the artificial intelligence generated research. But again, as we say, it is going to be student-centric, the human-centric artificial intelligence of application. For example, we are seeing shifting of roles, acquired roles, that will make the research specifically in higher education sector much more faster. For example, we had Google Scholar for quite a long time, but slowly and gradually, when we had technologies such as recommender systems, related articles, I myself was part of development of recommender systems for quite a few universities. And what I noticed was that there was a decreased pressure of work on the faculty and researchers and involvement of AI. Having said that, we are not just living in the age of artificial intelligence, but generative AI. So all these technologies help us to enable faster innovation cycles, enhanced accuracy, and deeper understanding of the products that are developed. And again, facilitation of collaboration between AI specialist domain and more ethical oriented approaches will be adopted. Here I would like to mention that it is the furthermore enhancement of Bloom's taxonomy. As we all know, those are associated with education. Every level of Bloom taxonomy is going to be enhanced with the artificial intelligence application, which includes the understanding of concepts. These days we see application of ChatGPT, understanding of complicated concepts, applying informations, the role playing of chatbots and AI systems, and finally evaluating different systems. So I see human very much center of research processes, but with more enhanced and more accurate and more productive in the presence of artificial intelligence tools.
Thank you. So I think you rightly pointed out that there is a need to balance between AI generated knowledge and human intellectual. So, and that is going to remain a key issue for academia to navigate probably. So thank you very much for sharing your perspective. John, as I said earlier, I do have a question for you. So how can AI in higher education promote inclusion? Because you mentioned somewhere when you were sharing. So this has been always a challenge. So what do you think, like, can AI promote inclusion rather than widen the existing gap? Who benefits? Who is at the risk of being left out completely if inclusivity isn't prioritized in its design? And if you can, address this question, considering what is happening in the higher education, especially in US,
Okay, well, I think that got really related to what Ahmad just said. We're not really quite yet living in the era of artificial general intelligence, but rather with generative AI, which I think just really magnifies existing biases because it doesn't know anything, doesn't know any better. It just spits out things that we think that we would enjoy. And these systems are trained on existing data. Oftentimes that's really old. So any existing biases or old ones that we try to weed out already in the work that we do wind up getting regurgitated back in the system. And so this winds up favoring students whose backgrounds or learning styles or their strengths really lie within more conformative success metrics. So we're looking at students who do not fit the algorithm, right? And these are ones whose talents lie in innovation or creativity or non-traditional expressions of knowledge really risk further marginalization. And there's a lot of literature on this already, and I'm just thinking about it now. I'll post it in some of the stuff in the chat if it's useful for anybody, because there's a lot of it from a systemic perspective I think is really good. But for the purpose of this conversation, I think that the bottom line is that there's no way that the world is turning away from AI, right? We're not going back. There are many problems. It doesn't serve everybody. The data can be really bad, and we can wind up with greater disparities if we don't let these risks go unchecked. So I think that from university administration standpoint, I think that we have to do, the first thing we have to do is perhaps impossible. And that is, we need to audit AI tools for equity, right? And the question is, how do we audit tools that we do not understand? Even with the AI experts, we just don't understand this stuff very well. To audit this stuff, it's going to be very difficult. But we need to get into a continuous improvement process to really assess these applications that we're using and to detect and correct any biases that we have, and just to ensure that we support students rather than really undermining any sort of inclusive educational outcomes. Another intentional thing that we need to do is make every effort that we can to diversify the data that we bring in as well. So as much as we want diverse students, diverse faculty, diverse people, but the data side that we're working with also needs to be much more diversified, and also the design teams working on how we integrate these data in. So it's really improving the data sources and involving as many stakeholders from, say, underrepresented communities as we can in the development of these systems. And then the last one is, to get out of these rigid pathways, I think that oftentimes we have within higher education or any level of education, is to really find ways to implement flexible learning pathways and using AI to offer more personalized and adaptive educational experiences that really recognize and cultivate the very strengths that we have, right? So if you're and find ways to really use AI to emphasize development of creativity, innovation, and alternative forms of academic success, because these are the same skills that also help us succeed outside of universities as well.
Yeah, it is very important when it comes to, and especially the personalized, giving a very personalized education experience to all the learners. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And yes, so inclusion should be at the core of AI deployment, I think, or else we are going to risk the existing inequalities, I can say. So yes, so let me ask Ahmad here. So Ahmad, what are the challenges institutions usually they face when they have to adopt AI tech in higher education? And how can they overcome such obstacles? Like, how do we ensure that AI unlocks human potential rather than just optimizing administrative efficiency? So we don't want to only talk about like AI can help us to optimize administrative efficiency. Like how AI can unlock the human potential.
So first of all, there are two, going through the stakeholder analysis, two major stakeholders, the faculty and the students. So from that point of view, as I was myself part of developing AI applications for higher education sector, what I have realized is that the universities should encourage more and more prototypes and soft AI application deployments in initial phases, so to get continuous feedback and the effects of integration into the systems. Second is that since we have faculties and researchers they were part of the IT or at the time of IT revolutions, but now as we are seeing that the rise of artificial intelligence, they have to realize and see the application and the manifest of artificial intelligence into the higher education sector. So until unless both of these stakeholders are not part of the system, we are not going to see a lot of progress. Second element that is more important is that interdisciplinary collaboration between technologists, educators, psychologists, and students for a more holistic approach. As we see that most of our inspiration that we are getting is from the private sector, ChatGPT, DeepSeek, or tools like these general purpose tools are being applied to the different education sectors and different level of education. But until unless they make their way from the top to the junior most student level, from the faculty to the research, and then people are able to somehow, as we in the in the computer science terminology, we call it A/B testing. You know, you have both of these systems in place, that with and without artificial intelligence. So when we go through that approach, that is only way that we can have a very quick adoption of artificial intelligence and a more inclusive, more feedback oriented, more equity and inclusion in the system. And then it is seen as a strategic investment in the university, not as just a deployment of some technology, but as a strategic step towards the next generation of higher education.
I mean, very interesting, because you know, a couple of points which are so crucial. Like one of them is interdisciplinary approach,
Yes.
taking support from the private sector, and then conducting a pilot study. So I mean, these are really good suggestions. So I think AI should be a kind of tool for empowerment, not just automation. So very well said. Let me go to Mariann again, and let me ask Mariann that if if AI determines what students learn and how they learn, and who get access, right? So who controls the algorithms? Should universities have the ownership and oversight of their own AI systems, or does that responsibility lie elsewhere?
Another good question. So the sociologist in me wants to ask, should AI determine what student learns? And it probably shouldn't, without some kind of intervention there at the level of education and sort of benchmarking. But to take your question as you've given it to me, we're in that kind of model, we're sleepwalking into a scenario where algorithms, you know, potentially controlled by a handful of tech giants and sort of the tech oligarch there, dictate the intellectual landscape of future generations. So not just what we learn, but also how we learn it, right? And as we've already established through the conversation here, this is not a level playing field, far from it, all right? I've recently been writing a book about this with my co-author, Samar Ad, and it's coming out next month actually. And one of the experiences in terms of researching sort of the conditions of AI use amongst faculty and also amongst students was the different perceptions in terms of prejudices about AI. So to give a quick example, speaking to faculty in global north institutions and organizations about their use of AI, they were relatively upfront about this being a tool in their toolbox. It was part of innovations. In fact, some leaders were actively encouraged by their organizations as part of a cost-saving exercise or just to experiment in the sandbox, right? Speaking to equivalent faculty based in global south regions, institutions and organizations, they carried an additional burden of shame about using the same AI tools. So they would be seen not as a researcher or an educator in their own right, but they would be seen as someone who needs to use their tools because they're not, quotes unquote, good enough at the level of their global north equivalents. So we've got, it's not just about the control of the algorithms, it's about how we look at perpetuating existing power structures. And that's incredibly unbalanced at the moment. And if universities and education doesn't assert ownership and oversight, we're basically surrendering our core mission. We're reinforcing, you know, aspects of digital colonialism, where knowledge production is further centralized into the hands of the privileged and obviously those who can access it, right? We can't just outsource ethical decision making to black boxes. We need to be building our own systems, checks and balances, designed with our values, with a deep understanding of some of the ongoing inequities and the points of accessibility that are needed to properly use AI. So this means building systems that recognize, you know, value, diverse knowledge systems, and not just those privileged by sort of Western traditional academic values. Policymakers need to be involved in the process, not just to regulate, but to actively dismantle the digital divide and support development of AI infrastructure that includes social and cultural perceptions of using the algorithm. So not just being used by the algorithm, but having an awareness of how we are using it and how we take that forward with us.
This is a great message for all the policymakers as well. So thank you for pointing it out. I mean, I strongly believe that this is such a critical governance question, because control over AI has, major implications, as we have mentioned. Also for institutional autonomy, for academic freedom. So there are so many points which we can cover. It can be a full day debate on this. Let me go back to Christine. Christine, I'm still not very clear about academic publications. So what do you think? What is the impact of Gen AI on collaborative writing in academic publication? Should there be a legal consequences for the unethical or inequitable use of Gen AI in research?
Yeah, thank you very much for the questions. I think similar to students, I mean, students, we know the academic integrity is such a big thing, isn't it? Gen AI and assessment is always a very popular topic in the last probably 2 to 3 years. And I think similar rules really should be applied to academic writing publication, to academics as well. I personally have been in that situation a couple of times, despite my research areas in Gen AI. So prior to Gen AI, as we know, that people contribute, we always write in groups with different collaborators, and we trust each other, you build relationships. But then you can't guarantee your co-authors, your collaborators don't use Gen AI to produce content. It is a quite difficult question that I personally don't really have the clear answer to it. I mean, it really put myself in a difficult position, because you can tell that the certain content produced by one of your co-authors is quite clearly written by AI. But what you're going to do if you're the lead author, then you think about the collaboration. How can you actually inform people? And when you know the content was actually written by AI, how do you actually solve the problem? So for me, it's easier just to set clear rules at the beginning, just trying to reinforce the the importance of not using AI to produce the written work. But apart from that, I had to spend lots of extra time trying to rewrite the whole thing, because it just doesn't look right. But and also for the references, we know that you shouldn't be using AI to generate references, but people do, including academic researchers. So that also put you in a very difficult position, because then you got to go back and to make sure all references are genuine as well. So I think that's probably the challenge all of us need to think about when we work with people. Who should we be working with, even with the people that you have trusted, you worked a long time, in this kind of a collaborative relationship. So that's a kind of a question that I think it will be worth being considered by all of the researchers. In terms of those legal consequences, as Gabby mentioned, I'm the co-editor-in-chief for the artificial intelligence in education. We haven't really had the experience of challenges, but I've done previously with other journals as well, and I've been in talk with different publishers as well. I think so. Please do correct me. I mean, we have publishers here. I don't really think we have any sort of legal kind of rules really to legally bound to require people. Obviously, for this kind of dishonesty, we normally just, if there's any publication we consider not genuine, you basically just to reject or kind of remove them. You inform the author. That's about it. But outside that, nobody gets informed. So there are certain rules. Well, in theory, the sort of university should be informed, or your department at least, but I think in reality it doesn't happen like that. So there's sort of not really legal kind of bonding here, or consequences need to be considered. I think that's also quite a quite important challenge, because Gen AI tools make it so easy for people to copy and paste things when there's no kind of a serious consequences. In a way, personally, I feel in a way it kind of making it quite challenging, or when to stop people from using this kind of tool to produce content, in particular when AI detects it's not really doing the job. We can't trust that kind of a detector anyway. So I think that's just a set of questions need to be considered by authors and also publishers as well. Thank you.
It is indeed a very challenging question. So what I can say is, like, ethical AI use in research is still an open area where clear policies are, I can say, still evolving. So probably it will take some time. Let me pause here for a moment and ask Gabi if there are any questions from the audience.
Hi, thank you. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's a lot of questions in the audience. I mean, I'm very conscious of time. You know, I feel like based on the audience questions, we could go on for several more hours. A couple of the questions, you know, it's relevant to things that we've kind of touched on. I think there are a couple of questions in the chat about any recommendations in terms of implementing AI strategies, in particular in someone asked about low-income countries, and someone else asked about maybe regions where AI is less understood or less established. And so I wondered if maybe that was a question that anyone would be willing to take.
Yeah, I think Ahmad basically touched on that. But Ahmad, would you like to answer that question related to implementation?
Well, again, I would emphasize more on the basically stakeholders have to understand the transformative potential of AI. We had been through the IT transformation time that was earlier this century, and then next 25 years. Now artificial intelligence systems that make the decision-making system totally autonomous, either it will be education, research, or all the dimension of higher education. Then again, from stakeholders' point of view, start small, gradually, then involve stakeholders, encourage prototype, encourage startups to play with the whole system, make it easy and see the results. Again, as we say it, A/B testing, you know, compare the older higher education system with the new one, and then finally create an environment of inclusive decision making. We can hardly these days find any industry, any sector of that is avoiding artificial, and we cannot avoid it. But then how to be part of it? Start small, involve everyone, and then demonstrate the tangible results. So that is the most pragmatic approach that any organization, any university that wants to be part of the change should adopt, and that will cultivate a culture of innovation driven by artificial intelligence.
Thank you, Ahmad. I think many of the audience questions will be answered because I'm going to just have a quick rapid fire now with all of our panelists. So let me ask Mariann quickly. What role should policymakers play in guiding the ethical and effective use of AI in higher education?
Oh, I like this question. I mean, on the nose, I would say we need to move beyond vague guidelines that start enacting concrete regulations. And what we haven't talked about yet or shine a spotlight on yet is AI seems to be a lovely technology that's opening up lots of innovations and has good things around accessibility. And if we treat it like a tool, it's a great tool in our educators, but also learning toolbox. We also know the other end of the continuum is true as well. It is entirely harmful at the level of sort of sustainable computing practices. It causes a lot of pollution. And so to come back to policymakers, we really need regulation and laws that are transparent, not only in the how and the why we use AI and implement them in education and what those kinds of algorithms mean, how we're going to protect student data, how we're going to protect faculty, how we ensure equitable access, but we also need to look at AI development and sustainability within that. So not only how we create independent oversight and bodies to hold institutions and tech companies accountable, but also how we nail that through the wall as part of, you know, sustainability and climate change as well, because these are technologies that are pretty horrific at the level of kind of server and data centers. It's like, it's not good. So all of that should be part of the role that policymakers play. And up to now, they've been pretty light touch on that for loads of reasons we could go into, but I suspect we don't have time. So we need to be proactive, not reactive, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So Ahmad, you said something, but if you are asked to give advice to any of the higher education leaders who are hesitant to embrace AI innovations, what advice you will give them?
Well, my short, I would say that cultivate a culture of innovation. Again, I would emphasize give chance for demonstration of tangible benefits, because that is where the AI is going to make its case to the decision makers. And then again, more competition oriented, because very soon we are going to see a very difference in quality as well as quantity of those universities deploying artificial intelligence and those who are not. So very soon we are going to see difference in that, and it's a competitive, it's a global world, it's a global village, and if the stakeholders don't realize this potential, I see that there is going to be a very big difference in terms of quantity and quality in the university's output, and as well as the competitive advantages.
Okay. So what you're saying is that there will be a difference in the universities who are using AI or deploying, let us say, AI, who are not. Okay.
Yes.
Fine. Christine, one of the point which is always a bone of contention is like industry expectation. University students are not meeting graduates are not meeting the industry expectation. So in your point of view, what or how should we bridge the gap between industry expectation and university education regarding AI, or let us say generative AI, AI literacy or generative AI?
Yeah, thank you for the questions. Again, I think, yeah, I mentioned earlier, so I think it is important to have the collaboration and connection. I know traditionally we've been quite excellent keeping the relationships, but I have noticed, and personally, I think relating to the AI application integration in industry, because industry also exploring the way of using a different AI skills and technologies and tools, so they don't know exactly what they want from graduates either at this stage, apart from the big international organization, the big names, they're quite well known, so in particular for SMEs. So I think in that way, just combined to what I explained earlier about the facilitator role, maybe in future when we're looking at the new way the universities can operate, maybe it's about working with industry in a way to better understand what they really want to develop the skills from, you know, from our graduates, and then to look out, put out some real world challenges to prepare them during the university time a bit better. So through the use of the various tools to solve the challenges that they can actually use in the industry. And also from that point, industry would better understand what universities can do in terms of supporting graduates to develop the skills. And also there's been a lot of frameworks proposed, I mean, including the one that I proposed as well. And I think for whatever kind of a literacy level we're looking for, but the key thing, I think it is important to understand, to have the basic understanding knowledge of how AI works, not just limited to Gen AI, how artificial intelligence works in general, to develop that kind of a knowledge level, and to really to integrate the ethical use throughout the whole different processes, whatever way they want to implement or apply AI tools in future work. Thank you.
Thank you. John, I always dream about like what will happen after 10 years, 20 years with this AI. So if you could fast forward 10 years, what would you want AI's role in higher education look like?
You know, that's a tough question. I mean, will we have universities in 10 years from now? Right. I mean, higher education already can't keep up with today, and this is a really big problem. And to Mariann's point, I think there are very different perspectives on this in the global north and the global south. Sorry. It seems to me that there are actors who are working hard to use AI as an excuse to place control or perhaps shut down higher education. And this is particularly true where I'm at in the United States right now. That said, I think that very few universities or very few industries change as slowly as education, right? So I think we can scale back a little bit and be more hopeful. I really envision AI's role in higher education as evolving to something that's more deeply human-centered, something that's more flexible, something that's more empowering. And higher education has always been a human-centric, labor-intensive, messy industry, right? It's expensive, it's political, and I think that for the first time, we're seeing this paradigm shift a lot. Oh, sorry?
I said it is supposed to be well structured, but it is messy.
It is messy. Higher education is a messy place. But I think that universities need to return a focus on attending to the developments of humans and human knowledge. That we're so obsessed with technology right now that we risk really forgetting the outputs. So I think we have to start thinking about this stuff, especially in places like where I'm at. It's not about economics, it's not about control, but it's about really attending to human experience as best as we can. And so there's always hope in there.
Thank you. Brilliant. Fascinating again. Gabi, is there any one compelling question that you have noted and you would like to bring forward?
There is one that I thought was really interesting that I don't think we've covered just yet, and I'm trying to find it now. Bear with me 1 second. I think the gist of it really was just kind of, are there any comments in terms of the absolute kind of massive energy requirement that is used by AI, and kind of how do we reconcile the benefits of AI against that kind of sustainability agenda? I don't know if anyone's got any kind of comments on that or ways to mitigate that at all.
John, would you like to comment on it?
Sure. Yeah, this is something that we're really not paying close attention to because there's the environmental cost. There's also the cost of other things that we are not investing in instead of these things as well. And so this is a conversation that higher education needs to lead rather than being responsive to.
Okay. I'm a little mindful of time as well, and I've been taking notes. So first of all, thank you all for those thought-provoking reflections, I can say. It's evident that AI in higher education is not just a passing trend, but a transformative force, that is going to define in future how we are going to teach, what we are going to teach, how the learners are going to learn, how they will engage with knowledge, everything. I mean, if Ahmad's insight on encouraging, hesitant leaders to embrace AI highlight the importance of having a very open mindset, institutional readiness, pilot study. Mariann's perspective was so important on policymakers, especially, because it underscores the critical need for kind of ethical guardrails and responsible governance to ensure that AI serves to all learners, equitably. And then Christine brings her thought also on bridging the academia and industry, which reminds us that AI literacy is no longer optional. It's a necessity for the higher education sector, for the students, for faculty. And John, your vision for the next decade challenges us to proactively shape AI's role in education rather than passively react to its developments. So as we move forward, it's clear that AI's impact will be determined by the choices we make today, whether we use it to augment human potential or foster inclusion or enhance learning experiences or allow it to create new barriers. But yes, the responsibility lies within us as educators, as researchers, and as leaders to ensure that AI is harnessed thoughtfully and strategically. So with that, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to our esteemed panelists for their invaluable insights. I really enjoyed. To our audience as well for their engagement. I can see that there are more than 530 participants who were engaged here. Also to HETL and Emerald for making this discussion possible because they took the initiative. The conversation on AI's role in education doesn't end here. It's just the beginning. AI is here to stay. So the question isn't whether we will use it, but how we will shape it to benefit students, faculty, and institutions. So let's continue exploring, questioning, and innovating together. Thank you all. Thanks a lot.